What's up, everyone? This is Rebs, and go Birds! Last Friday, Halo Studios announced that Operation Infinite is Halo Infinite's last major content update.
The reason we started by talking about Halo Campaign Evolved, though, is because that's our next game. That's kind of the future of where our studio is starting to invest more and more of its time and resources. So this upcoming Halo Infinite update will be our last planned major content release, and that's going to be Operation Infinite.
They specified they're still supporting Infinite through 2026, and there's still some stuff to look forward to.
While this is our last currently planned major content update, it doesn't mean that we're walking away from Halo Infinite by any means. We will still be supporting the game. There's still some stuff to look forward to. We look forward to still playing the game with you and with the community. So did want to be pretty clear about that.
But on Halo Waypoint, they shared an Infinite roadmap that only mentions exciting challenges, ranked rewards, and community events. So I'm not sure if there will be any new playable content next year. But regardless, Halo Studios is moving on towards Halo's new era, and so am I. Since 2022, I've been constantly reporting on Halo Infinite, from informational videos about new updates to exclusive reports about Infinite's development. I've covered every major aspect of the game. And now that major updates have ended, it's time for me to say goodbye to Infinite by sharing my final report about it. This report will review Halo Infinite's development progress from when it was first released to Operation Infinite, and then I'll share my thoughts on Infinite's ending. As a side note, if you like to learn about Infinite's pre-release development, I encourage you to watch my reports about 343 Industries' leadership issues and Infinite's cut content. On November 15, 2021, Halo Infinite officially began with the surprise release of multiplayer for Halo's 20th anniversary. This surprise quickly turned into disappointment because Infinite's multiplayer started with just 10 maps and the following few playlists: Big Team Battle, Quick Play, which only included 5 game modes, Ranked Arena, and Bot Bootcamp. The release of multiplayer also marked the start of Season 1 Heroes of Reach, which consisted of 4 events or content updates that lasted until May 3, 2022, and normally included a featured playlist and a battle pass with unique rewards. These events were Tenrai, which included the Fiesta playlist, Winter Contingency, Cyber Showdown, which included the Attrition playlist, and Tactical Ops, which included the Tactical Slayer playlist. So, from November 2021 to May 2022, 343 Industries just slowly added a few playlists to multiplayer, which made Season 1 very underwhelming. During Season 1, the campaign was released on December 8th with an open world that had up to 2/3 of its planned content cut before release, and didn't include split screen or online co-op. Despite this, Halo fans were able to find enjoyment in freely moving around an open world as Master Chief, using new equipment like the grapple hook, and the campaign's solid story. But unfortunately, the lack of content in the campaign and multiplayer caused an incredibly drastic decline in the player count. Just looking at the Steam charts, the average number of PC players dropped about 50% every month from November 2021 to March 2022, and the peak player count dropped from 256,000 players to only 10,000. Season 1 was followed by Season 2 Lone Wolves, which started May 3, 2022 and ended on November 8th. There were 4 events during Season 2, specifically Interference, which included the Last Spartan Standing playlist, Entrenched, which included the Land Grab playlist, Alpha Pack, which brought back Last Spartan Standing, and The Yappening, which included Big Team Battle Fiesta. Once again, the events only included a few new playlists, causing it to be another disappointing season. Also, Season 2 was expected to see the release of Campaign Co-op and Campaign Mission Replay, but these features were pushed back. As a result, the player count dwindled to extremely low numbers. The average peak player count on PC decreased from 21,000 to 6,000. There was one new thing Season 2 introduced, and that's the multiplayer narrative. It included ongoing story cinematics focusing on Spartan Zagrina, Eklund and Din, and the Banished-controlled AI called Eratus that infiltrated their security systems. As the seasons progressed, the implications of that breach were slowly uncovered. The coolest thing about the multiplayer narrative is that levels and playlists would evolve to reflect what was unfolding in the cinematics. As former narrative and cinematic director Dan Chosik said, this created a connected, evolving narrative ecosystem where gameplay and story live side by side. Unfortunately, in June 2023, 343 Industries scrapped narrative cutscenes to focus on developing content, features, and improvements for Halo Infinite. What people don't know is 343 Industries originally planned to outsource all narrative cinematics to external partners, but once the campaign wrapped, they transitioned directly into building Season 2's multiplayer narrative internally, which required collaboration across the narrative, art, lighting, FX, and engineering teams. Before Season 2 started, 343 Industries publicly admitted that they needed to deliver more content and features more quickly for Infinite. Developing the multiplayer narrative internally probably took away a lot of time they could have used for developing playable content. If so, I understand why they scrapped cinematics internally, but they should have continued to outsource them. Before Season 2 ended, 343 Industries delayed Season 3 to March 7, 2023, and released the Winter Update on November 8, 2022. This was the first major content update that significantly improved Halo Infinite, as it brought with it several highly anticipated experiences, such as campaign co-op and mission replay, improvements to match XP and progression to help players level up, and most importantly, Forge Mode, with the surprise release of the Custom Games browser a month later in December. Forge in the Custom Games browser allows players to create and experience an endless amount of community creations that brought back the classic social aspect of Halo to Infinite. Also, Forge allowed 343 Industries to use community members to create multiplayer maps. This drastically improved the number of maps and modes that 343 was able to release for multiplayer, and resulted in Infinite having more maps than any other Halo game. By May 2024, Infinite had over 90 multiplayer maps thanks to Forge, and a lot more were added since. However, there was one unfortunate outcome to all of this. In January 2024, 343 abandoned new developer maps for Infinite and completely relied on Forge-made maps when they ended seasons to focus more on new Halo projects. While Forge-made maps are impressive, there's a clear distinction between them and developer maps, and the loss of developer maps hurt Infinite's player count. Let's move on to Season 3 Echoes Within. Besides 3 enjoyable developer maps called Cliffhanger, Chasm, and Oasis, Season 3 included Infinite's first new sandbox items, the M392 Bandit Rifle and Shroud Screen. It took over a year for 343 to add new sandbox items, which is why Echoes Within was an important season for Infinite. It also included the fan-favorite Echoes Within Intro Narrative Cinematic, which is notable for being one of only 3 cutscenes pre-rendered by Axis Studios rather than being created in-engine, the other 2 being Infinite's campaign opening cutscene and the multiplayer Season 1 cinematic intro. Season 3 also included improvements to Forge, such as the ability to edit developer maps and Escalation Slayer, in which players work their way up a ladder of weapon loadouts. I had a great time playing this mode on Chasm during Season 3. Despite that, Season 3 should have included a big new playlist to make it more exciting. Season 4 Infection, which started on June 20th, 2023, was another important season for multiple reasons. It marked the return of the iconic and exciting Infection and Husky Raid modes, with Husky Raid being my personal favorite addition to Infinite. Husky Raid is full of non-stop action and epic moments, and offers a lot of XP for ranking up. Also, a ton of Husky Raid maps were added to Infinite, which makes it a perfect playlist. Another reason why Season 4 was important is that a career rank progression system was finally added, which gave players a reason to grind multiplayer. This was greatly needed to help improve the player count, and is a feature that should never be missing from any multiplayer shooter game. Forge received some important updates during Season 4, such as a reactive water plane and improved visual effects. Like Season 3, 2 sandbox items were added in Season 4, specifically the Quantum Translocator and Threat Seeker. Lastly, 4 maps were added to matchmaking, including Forest and Scar. This season had a bit of everything, which made it an improvement over Season 3. As I previously mentioned, multiplayer narrative cinematics were scrapped, and this was announced a day before Season 4 started, so we never received an official cinematic for this season. But thanks to Dan Chosik, who shared this on their personal website, here's the unfinished Season 4 cinematic teaser. Dan says it was meant to kick off Season 4, with the key twist being that the main characters were unaware of the intrusion. Eratus had infiltrated their security systems, and as the season progressed, the implications of that breach would slowly be uncovered and introduce new threats, characters, and deeper connections to past Halo lore. This brings us to Halo Infinite's final season, called Season 5 Reckoning, which started on October 17, 2023, and was yet again another important season. The biggest additions during the season were Firefight, which was the most requested playlist for Infinite, and the Forge AI Toolkit, which allowed forgers to create awesome PvE experiences for custom games and official multiplayer playlists. Being able to play Firefight and create your own Firefight experiences was a game changer. Other big additions were cross-core helmets and new epic armor, such as Flood Armor and the Combat Evolved Mark V Armor Kit, because a ton of players bought these shop items. Firefight and the new armor caused Halo Infinite to skyrocket from number 84 to number 6 on Steam's top sellers chart in the United States and number 16 globally. Season 5 also included 2 sandbox items like the previous 2 seasons, specifically the Repair Field Equipment and the Bandit Evo Rifle, and 3 maps, including Prism, which I think is one of the best looking Halo maps ever. Lastly, Season 5 caused the Steam peak player count to remain above 10,000 players from October to January, which was a big improvement over previous months. Things took a drastic turn in January 2024 when 343 Industries ended Seasons for Infinite and replaced them with seasonal updates that consisted of 3 operations, with the first operation containing the most content. For most of 2024, operations only included some new maps and sometimes a new playlist or 2. But this all changed with Operation Great Journey on November 5, 2024, which focused on Halo 2's 20th anniversary. Great Journey included all of the following content: Delta Arena, which is a Halo 2 inspired playlist with classic maps and movement; Third-Person Firefight, which was the first time a Halo game had third-person moment-to-moment gameplay; and the MA5K Avenger SMG. Not only was the MA5K Avenger the first new weapon added to Infinite in over a year, it marked the beginning of Halo Studios' commitment to releasing a new weapon in the first operation of each seasonal update. The Spring Update, which started on February 4th, 2025, added the Fuel Rod rocket launcher. The Summer Update added the Mutilator double-barreled shotgun, along with Griff Ball and the Halo 3 Legacy playlist with classic settings, and the Fall Update added the Vestige Carbine and the Falcon vehicle from Halo Reach, which is Halo Infinite's first and only new vehicle after about 4 years of being released, along with Invasion Mode from Reach. Halo Studios' small development team for Infinite was able to release 4 weapons and 1 vehicle in the past year, while 343 Industries released only 1 new weapon and no vehicles. So it was great to see Halo Studios accomplish this and operations turn into meaningful content updates compared to when operations first started. However, replacing seasons with operations and replacing developer maps with Forge maps prevented Halo Infinite from having a major comeback. The player count drastically increased when Season 5 was released in October 2023, but decreased immediately after seasons ended, and continued to decrease as players stopped receiving developer maps. The player count never recovered, and it felt like Infinite's major improvements did not matter anymore. Lastly, let's talk about Halo Infinite's final major update, Operation Infinite. Halo Studios just spent the past 4 years turning Infinite into the type of Halo experience it should have been at launch, and released a new sandbox item in every seasonal update for the past year. So you would think the final major content update for Infinite would contain exciting playable content. But unfortunately, Operation Infinite is the complete opposite of the type of final content update that Halo Infinite deserved. The only playable content is a Husky raid map and a ranked map. Yup, that is it. Previously, I shared information from someone who worked with Halo Studios about planned content for Infinite. Everything they said would come to Infinite actually did, except for a Forge-made Warzone playlist. Since they were right about everything else, I assume a Warzone mode was planned but scrapped. Also, there's an unfinished tank called the Komodo that shoots fire. This is a type of content I wish Halo Studios had finished and released for Operation Infinite. To summarize everything, Halo Infinite has come a long way since it was first released. It started with barely any content and has turned into a respectable Halo experience with most major features and content that all Halo games should have. Seasons and operations improved over time, but their content was not exciting enough to drastically increase Infinite's player count. But I enjoyed my time with Infinite, especially because I believe it has the best gameplay in the series, and it has been an honor to report on it. With that said, my final Halo Infinite report has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching this, and to all of my previous Infinite reports. Make sure to leave a comment about your thoughts on Infinite, and stay tuned for my next video. Peace.